Hi everyone, welcome to my blog. In this blog, we'll be discussing what design management and tourism is, and we'll be having a few series of this discussion. So, design management is a very important foundation for every aspects of ideas, concepts, to products and services. So, in this series of blogs, we'll be talking about what is design management and how does it add value to tourism sector. So we'll be trying to look at the theory part of the design management and how do we successfully use it in the tourism sector. So in this part of series one of this design management and tourism blog discussion, will be first thinking about what is design thinking, or how do you think like a designer. So what is design thinking? This is very important. And how do we think like a designer? All of us are designers actually, in our own ways, in our own life, and in whatever we do. But when we talk about what design is and what and how is design thinking, it is trying to construct and think a bit out of our usual or our comfortable zone. As Tim Brown says, thinking like a designer can transform the way you develop products, services, processes, and even strategy. So what does this mean? It means when we think like a designer, it means there has to be certain transformation. It has to be transforming a product, how it looks, maybe how it is used, maybe a service. How is it made efficient? How does it add value to the end users? Or could be a process. How does it add efficiency in it? And at large, again, it could also be transforming a strategy. Strategies are not written on stone. It has to change with time. So Tim Brown says thinking like a designer means transforming. So number one is transformation is important as a designer. Then design thinking is a discipline that uses the designer sensibility and methods to match people's need with what is technologically feasible. Now, here there are some keywords. Now, as design thinkers, it's kind of a design discipline or a structure, in our own mindsets of transforming a sensible method, or for example, that would meet the needs of people or the end users, as I said earlier. But again, here the additional word is technologically feasible. So we have to ensure that there is opportunity for digital and technological transformation, because it makes our life easier. Like this blog, look at it. We are just sitting across through this screen, but it's making our life easier. So technology is an important foundation, again to say so, or an important tool when we think about design management. Now, design thinking converts feasible, viable business strategy into customer value and market opportunity. I took a pause when I said feasibility, but it means viability, business strategy. When I was reading, mentioning this sentence, it has to create a value proposition to the targeted customers or segmented customers, or it has to lead to a market opportunity when we think like a designer. So it is not just transforming and then leaving it, but it has to create a value. That is again another key. First is transformation, second is creating value, right? Going on further, design thinking means it's all about creating ideas, that better meets efficiently, effectively the consumer's needs and desires. At the end of the day, we have to pitch out a sales. We have to pitch out that the idea transforms. About this transformation, again, we'll be looking at it at the later stage of this episode. So we have to transform. Again, when we transform, it has to ultimately give certain value addition to the desired customers, or the end users. And in terms of now services, because at the later end we are trying to combine design management and tourism. Tourism is all about service industry, So, and as you see in this web page of mine, we are going to be discussing about these and service. How do we make services better in the tourism sector? So again, a theoretical part of design transformation and design thinking is businesses in the service sector can often make significant innovation on the front lines of service creations, and delivery. So when we talk about design thinking, it is not only about transforming a product, how it looks, the color, how it is used, but it also means, as Tim Brown said, it transformation in terms of services, value addition in services, the value addition in the maybe the value chain of the services. So this is all about thinking like a designer. And finally, design thinkers pose questions and explore constraints in creative ways that proceeds in entirely new directions. So when I have been talking about this series, I'm sure you have already thought, and a lot of thinking was going into your head when we were discussing this part. And when we talk about thinking, it means to think a bit out of the box. Why do we do things like this? Oh, how does this happen? Or where does this come from? So these kind of questions and are important when we think like a designer. And then ultimately this has to lead into the transformation of a new direction. So the keywords are transformation, adding value, it's kind of a discipline, and at the same time it has to lead to a new direction now. So with this, in this next part of this series, we will be watching how does design thinking transform. Technically there are three stages. So number one is inspiration. So when we talk about inspirations, all of us have different inspirations. We have in different mentors, for example. Ultimately, thinking like a designer means we have to think about our resources. For example, in this part of the transformation, the phase. At the same time, as mentioned earlier, we have to ask a lot of questions. What is the business problem? Look at the problem so that there's an opportunity. And what has to be changed, what has been changed. So these are some of the fundamental questions that you have to think when you think like a designer. So in the later part of this of the episodes of design management and tourism, so we have to be talking about these, and we'll be coming back to this. And at the same time, after we ask these kind of questions, look at the world, observe what people are doing, how do people react, how do people respond. It's very important. At the same time, we can go a bit further. We can pay more attention closely to maybe, for example, extremes like observing children, observing elders. How do they think of things? How do they perceive the value of that services? So likewise, at the end, it is also important in this inspiration stage that we have kind of of a project room there, or a board that we can just stick up ideas, concepts, inspiration, so on, and ultimately, as we said, try to have technology embedding into it. Inspiration, then ideation. The inspiration has to become an idea. The ideation part is to brainstorm. I talked about this board. So when we talk about this board, build creative frameworks. There will be a lot of cows, like a lot of messy notes and so on. But from there, now build up creativity frameworks out of that. We have to bring order from the cows. Then at the same time, what is important is the customer has to be at the core of our ideation, because at the end it has to add value to the people. After that, apply integrative thinking. When we apply integrative thinking, it is nothing but trying to you know make some prototyping and so on. So when we do some prototyping, we have to have some tests. In services also, we have to do some prototyping. We have to see people's feedback. We have to try it out. Then after that, prototype some more, test it, get feedbacks internally, externally, ask users about it. So ultimately, then it's the implementation part. The implementation part is nothing but the execution of the vision. In this phase, we have to ultimately, after we have some prototyping, some services in place, then what is important is have a communication strategy, because we have to try to communicate our product or our services to the end users, to the target customers, because it has to have a value proposition. And after this is being done, people, the most important thing is then move on again, think of another the inspiration, and then try to create value in it. So this is how we think like a designer. So by the end of this blog, I'm sure that all of us are now thinking like designers, asking a lot of questions. So thank you so much for interacting and also understanding. At the same time, I'm sure that this series of thinking like a designer has brought you a lot of questions that would be again answered in the next part of this series of blogs of design management and tourism. Thank you, everyone. Till next time.